My mother's dining room always smelled like expensive candles and quiet judgment. The table was long, too long for a family dinner, and the silverware was placed with military precision, like forks could keep people from saying cruel things. I walked in wearing my best-fitted blazer dress, heels that pinched, and a smile I'd practiced in the car. The kind of smile that says, "I'm fine," even when your stomach is already tight. My dad, Mark Whitmore, didn't look up from carving the roast. My mom, Darla, did that thing she always did, eyes sweeping me head to toe like she was checking for dust on a shelf. "Oh," she said, voice sweet as fake syrup. "You made it." My older brother Grant leaned back in his chair, smug in his tailored shirt. Grant lived in a condo my parents helped him buy because he was building his future. I lived in a rented apartment in the city because I needed to learn responsibility. I pulled out a chair and sat with my spine straight, not stiff, just steady. I refused to arrive small. Across the table, my grandfather, Harrison Whitmore, sat like a king who didn't need to prove he was one. Silver hair, crisp suit, cane resting against his leg. If my parents were the gatekeepers of approval, Grandpa Harrison was the entire castle. He didn't speak right away. He watched. That was the part my parents never understood. They thought his silence meant he was distracted or tired. But Grandpa Harrison's silence was a spotlight. It made people reveal themselves. We all started eating. The conversation tried to pretend it wasn't loaded. Grant bragged about a promotion that sounded more like a title change than real money. My mom nodded so hard I thought her earrings would fall off. "Grant works so hard," she told Grandpa. "Some people just have that drive." I kept chewing, slow and calm. The meat tasted like something I couldn't afford and didn't want. My dad sipped his drink and glanced at me like I was a problem he hadn't solved yet. "So, Lena," he said, "how's your little job going?" There it was. The phrase he used whenever he wanted to shrink me. Little job. I worked as a project manager at a fast-growing design firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. I paid my bills. I showed up. I didn't borrow. I didn't beg. "It's going well," I said. "We just landed a new client." Grant chuckled. "A client? Like a small business?" My mom laughed softly, like he'd made the cleverest joke in the world. I swallowed the urge to snap back. I'd learned that arguing at my mother's table was like shouting into a mirror. It only exhausted you. Grandpa Harrison finally spoke. "Lena," he said, voice steady, "tell me something." My parents' posture changed instantly, like someone had pulled invisible strings. When Grandpa asked a question, it wasn't small talk. It was a test. I met his eyes. "Sure." He tapped his cane once, just once, on the floor. Not dramatic. Just a reminder that he was present. "Why are you still living in that rented apartment downtown?" My fork paused midair. Grant's smile widened. My mom's lips pressed into that satisfied little line, the one she wore when she thought the world was finally agreeing with her opinion of me. Before I could answer, Grandpa continued, calm but sharp. "What happened to the penthouse I arranged for you?" The table went so quiet I could hear the tick of the wall clock. My mouth went dry. My heart didn't race, no. It dropped like a stone. I blinked once. Then again, slower. "A penthouse," I repeated, because my brain genuinely refused to accept the sentence. Grandpa's gaze didn't leave me. 2 months ago. 2 months ago, my parents had invited me over for coffee. My mom had acted unusually warm. My dad had patted my shoulder like I was a dog that finally learned a trick. They'd asked about my lease, my savings, my plans. Then my father had sighed and said, "We're just worried about you, Lena. We want you to be stable." That day had ended with them insisting I let them help manage paperwork because real estate documents are complicated. I remember standing in their hallway, holding a folder they'd placed in my hands, my mom saying, "We'll keep it safe. You lose things." I'd believed them, because a small part of me still wanted to. Now Grandpa Harrison looked at me like the answer mattered. I set down my fork carefully. "I don't know what you mean," I said, my voice steady even though my hands wanted to shake. "I didn't receive any penthouse. I'm still in my apartment. Grant's laugh died instantly. My mom's face tightened. A quick flicker, annoyance, then calculation. My dad's hand jerked slightly, and his knife scraped the plate. Grandpa Harrison didn't blink. He didn't look confused. He looked certain. He turned his head, slow, toward the other end of the table, toward my parents. The room felt suddenly smaller, like the walls leaned in to listen. My mother tried first because she always did. "Harrison," she said lightly, "maybe there's been a misunderstanding." Grandpa raised one hand. Not loud. Not rude. Just final. "Darla," he said, "don't." Silence hit again. My dad cleared his throat. "Dad, I don't know what she's talking about." Grandpa Harrison's eyes didn't soften. "I'm not asking her," he said. "I'm asking you." My heartbeat became loud in my ears. My father's jaw worked. "We." Grandpa reached for his cane and set it upright beside his chair. The movement was controlled, but it carried weight, like he was putting a gavel on a bench. "2 months ago," Grandpa said, "I signed paperwork to transfer a property into Lena's name. A penthouse. Paid in full. No mortgage. No strings." My stomach flipped. My mother's fingers tightened around her wine glass. Grandpa kept going, voice calm, almost conversational, which made it worse. "I checked on it last week. I was told the property had been reassigned." He said that last word like it tasted wrong. My dad's face drained. Truly drained. Like someone pulled the color out of him. Grant stared at his plate, suddenly fascinated by the mashed potatoes. My mother forced a laugh, one sharp, brittle sound. "Harrison, that's ridiculous," she said. "Why would we?" Grandpa's cane tapped the floor. Once. Then again. Not out of anger, out of control. Like a metronome. "I gave you 2 a chance," he said, eyes on my parents. I assumed there was an explanation that wouldn't disgust me. I felt a heat rise behind my eyes, but I didn't let it spill. Not yet. I wouldn't cry at this table. Not where my mother could store it as a trophy. My dad's fork slipped from his fingers and clinked against the plate. Grandpa leaned forward a fraction. "Mark," he said quietly, "tell me where Lena's penthouse is." My father opened his mouth. No sound came out. And in that moment, I realized something that made my blood turn cold and clear at the same time. Whatever happened to that penthouse wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. I inhaled slowly, sitting taller, looking from my parents to Grandpa Harrison. My voice came out low and controlled. "Grandpa," I said, before they answer, "can I ask one thing?" He glanced at me, and for the first time that night, his eyes softened, just slightly. "Go ahead, sweetheart." I turned to my parents. My mother's smile was gone now. My dad looked trapped. Grant looked terrified. I kept my face calm. "Which one of you decided I didn't deserve it?" I asked. No one spoke. But my dad's hand started to shake. And Grandpa Harrison's cane stopped tapping. Because the real dinner had finally begun. The silence stretched so long it became uncomfortable to breathe in. My question hung in the air, sharp, unavoidable. "Which one of you decided I didn't deserve it?" My mother was the first to recover. She always was. "Darla Whitmore didn't panic," she performed. "Lena," she said softly, placing her napkin on the table as if she were calming a child, "this isn't the time to dramatize things." I almost smiled. Dramatize. That was her favorite word when the truth threatened her control. My dad finally spoke, voice thin. "We were trying to protect you." Grandpa Harrison's head snapped toward him. Protect her from what? My father swallowed. From making a mistake. From being overwhelmed. I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands in my lap, so no one could see how tightly I was gripping my fingers together. Overwhelmed by a home that was already paid for? I asked calmly. Or overwhelmed by independence? Grant shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, maybe we should." "Not now," my mom snapped at him without even looking. Grandpa Harrison stood. Not fast. Not dramatically. But when he stood, everyone else felt smaller. "Mark," he said, voice controlled but cold, "answer me clearly." My dad rubbed his palms on his napkin. The penthouse was temporarily transferred. To whom? Grandpa asked. Another pause. My mother jumped in. Harrison, we needed liquidity for Grant. He had an opportunity. I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Not loud. Just one sharp breath of disbelief. Grant's head jerked up. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, meeting his eyes, you used something meant for me to fix his life. Again. That's not fair, my mother snapped. Then explain it, I replied. Explain why I was never told. Explain why paperwork with my name disappeared. Grandpa Harrison turned slowly toward my mother. Darla, he said, did you move that property into Grant's control? Her lips pressed together. Too tight. It was temporary, she said. And it was logical. Lena rents. Grant invests. There it was. The sentence she'd been carrying for years. I stood. My chair scraped softly against the floor, but no one told me to sit back down. Even my parents knew better now. You didn't think I'd find out, I said, my voice steady. You didn't think Grandpa would check. My dad looked at me, eyes glassy. We were going to tell you. When? I asked. After he sold it? After you decided I'd learn my lesson? Grant shot up from his chair. I didn't ask for this. You didn't refuse it either, I replied. Grandpa Harrison exhaled slowly, then reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out his phone. I already spoke to my attorney, he said calmly. Before dinner. My mother's face drained of color. I wanted to give you the chance to explain yourselves, Grandpa continued. You failed. My dad's voice cracked. Dad, please. Enough, Grandpa said sharply. The property transfer is being reversed. Immediately. Grant froze. What? The penthouse was never yours, Grandpa said. And it never will be. My mother stepped forward. Harrison, you can't just. I can, he said. And I will. Then he turned to me. Lena, he said gently now, there's more. My stomach tightened. I didn't just gift you that penthouse, he continued. I placed it under a holding company. One you control. My parents stared at him. I wanted you protected, Grandpa said. From exactly this. My heart pounded. What do you mean, control? I asked. Grandpa smiled. Not proud, but relieved. It means, he said, they didn't just take a home from you. He looked directly at my parents. They committed fraud. The room erupted at once. My mother gasped. My dad stumbled back into his chair. Grant swore under his breath. I didn't move. I just stood there, calm and clear-headed, feeling something new settle into my chest. Not anger. Not hurt. Power. And for the first time in my life, I realized this wasn't just about what they took from me. It was about what I was about to take back. The word fraud didn't echo. It landed. Heavy. Final. My mother recovered first because she always did. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and tried to turn panic into authority. Harrison, she said tightly, this is being blown out of proportion. No, Grandpa replied calmly. It's finally being seen in proportion. My father stared at the table like it might open and swallow him. Grant paced once, then stopped, realizing there was nowhere to go. I exhaled slowly and sat back down, not because I was defeated, but because I didn't need to stand anymore. I trusted you, I said to my parents. I didn't ask for gifts. I didn't demand help. You chose to involve yourselves. My mom's eyes flashed. We raised you. And I became successful despite how small you kept me, I replied. Grandpa placed a steady hand on the back of my chair. The simple gesture anchored me. My attorney will handle the legal side, he said. Tonight isn't about punishment. It's about clarity. He turned to my parents. You will return every document, every key, every access code. Tomorrow. Grant looked at me, his voice low. Lena, I didn't know it was supposed to be yours. I met his gaze. You knew it wasn't. That was enough. He looked away. My dad finally spoke, voice broken. What do you want from us? The question surprised me. For once, it wasn't a demand, it was fear. I thought for a moment. I want distance, I said. And honesty. And I want you to stop making decisions about my life like I'm not in the room. My mother scoffed. You're being dramatic. Grandpa's voice cut in instantly.
No, Darla.
She's being clear. He turned to me again. There's one more thing. I raised my eyebrows. The holding company? He continued. It owns more than one property. My breath caught. I set it up for you, Grandpa said. As a foundation. Something that grows with you. My parents stared, stunned. I didn't tell you because I needed to know who I could trust, he added. Now I know. Silence followed. Not the tense kind, but the kind that settles after a storm. Dinner was forgotten. Plates untouched. I stood again, calmer now. I'm leaving, I said. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. Grandpa nodded. I'll walk you out. As we reached the door, my mother spoke, quieter this time. Lena, we were trying to do what we thought was best. I turned back once. The best thing you could have done, I said, was believe I was enough. Then I left. Outside, the night air felt lighter. Grandpa squeezed my hand. You handled that with grace. I smiled, small, real. I learned from you, I said. For the first time, I wasn't walking away from my family feeling smaller. I was walking forward, free, supported, and finally in control of my own story. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. The penthouse was quiet, peacefully quiet. Not the kind of silence filled with tension, but the kind that lets you breathe all the way in. The keys felt solid in my hand. Not symbolic. Real. I'd taken my time moving in. No rush. No announcements. Just calm decisions made on my own terms. The holding company paperwork was finalized, the property officially back where it belonged. Grandpa Harrison handled everything with the same steady patience he'd always shown me. My parents didn't call. Not once. Grant texted me a short message. I'm sorry. I didn't know how bad it was. I replied just as briefly. Take care of yourself. That was enough. I didn't need apologies that came too late. I needed peace, and I finally had it. On a Saturday morning, Grandpa came over with coffee and a grin. Feels different, doesn't it? He said, stepping inside. It does, I replied. Like my life finally fits me. He laughed softly. That was always the point. We sat at the kitchen island, sunlight spilling across marble countertops. I told him about my job, about plans I'd been quietly building, ideas I'd never shared before because I'd been taught not to aim too high. I want to start my own firm, I said. Small at first, but smart. Grandpa nodded. You already think like an owner. That word settled deep in my chest. Owner. Not renter. Not borrower. Not someone waiting for approval. A week later, I invited my parents to meet me on neutral ground. A cafe.
Public. Calm.
They arrived unsure, cautious. I didn't accuse.
I didn't argue.
I'm not cutting you out, I told them. But I'm not giving you control anymore. My mother looked tired. My father nodded slowly. We understand, he said. Whether they truly did or not didn't matter. I had learned the difference between forgiveness and access. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed. A message from Grandpa. Proud of you. I smiled. That evening, I stood on the balcony of my penthouse, city lights stretching endlessly below. I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost, or even what I'd gained. I was thinking about what I'd become. Someone who spoke up. Someone who chose herself. Someone who didn't need permission to take up space. The past no longer defined me. I did. And for the first time in my life, the future felt wide open and entirely mine.